Vanakkam. Welcome to Curious Minds. Every culture on earth made the same dangerous choice at some point in history. They took fresh food and they waited. They waited while it soured, while it bubbled, while it began to smell wrong. And somehow, against every survival instinct, that waiting kept them alive. Today we call this fermentation. Back then, it was a gamble with survival. I'm Kotravai, and today we are walking through a global hall of tables to uncover a truce, a pact between humanity and the invisible world of decay. I stand before our first stop, Table India. The clay of a heavy dark pot feels cool against my palm. The traditional satti, used for centuries in the villages of Tamil Nadu. I lift the lid to find Paraya Soru. I'm taking a spoonful. Refreshing. This was the fuel of the ancient Tamil farmers. They took leftover rice, soaked it in water overnight in these breathable clay pots, and ate it before dawn. Overnight, the lactic acid bacteria dismantle the anti-nutrients called phytates. This unlocks a notable increase in iron and zinc and boosts vitamin B6. It turned a simple bowl of rice into a biological shield against the punishing tropical sun. I take a few steps down the hall, still in India, but now moving north. Here, a glass jar sits in a patch of sunlight. This is kanji. Oh, that sharp mustard kick is immediate. This deep purple drink was crafted by the people of the Punjab to ignite the digestive fire during cold winters. They take black carrots, water, and crushed mustard seeds, letting the sun do the work. The fermentation releases anthocyanins. These are powerful antioxidants that support the body's anti-inflammatory pathways, helping digest the heavy grains and fats of the north. I'm moving now to table china. Before me is a large stoneware crock, the kind used by laborers 2000 years ago. Inside is the ancestor of all cabbage ferments, sauerkraut. While many think of Germany, this began in China, where cabbage was fermented in rice wine to feed the armies building the Great Wall. This process produces organic acids that indirectly support the gut-brain axis. It provided a steady source of vitamins and gut health for people living in high-stress, physically demanding environments. I step across to table South Korea. I see a massive dark ceramic jar called an ongi. This jar is breathable. It has microscopic pores that let air in but keep rain out. This is kimchi. It is spicy, garlicky, and has a sour carbonated fizz. For centuries, Korean families buried these jars underground to keep vegetables from rotting during the brutal winters. Meta-analysis from 2025 confirmed that the microbes in kimchi support metabolic health. It helps regulate cholesterol and fasting blood glucose, a true survival medicine forged in a buried jar. Now I move to table Japan. I see a bundle of dried rice straw. I peel it back and the smell of earth and ammonia hits me. This is natto. I lift the beans. The sticky threads are like a gossamer web. This was the legendary food of the samurai. Legend says a warrior left boiled beans in straw on his horse and the heat triggered this ferment. The bacteria from the straw produce an enzyme called nattokinase. Clinical studies confirm it has fibrinolytic activity. It helps keep the blood flowing and supports heart health. The samurai didn't know the science. They just knew it gave them endurance. Still at the Japanese table, I see a cedar wood keg containing a thick, dark red paste. This is miso. The umami is deep, salty, and ancient. Miso was the staple of Zen Buddhist monks who used it as a primary source of nourishment in their meat-free diets. It is rich in probiotics and soy isoflavones. These compounds support the body's natural antioxidant activity. It is the taste of patience and spiritual discipline. I walk across the hall to Table Ethiopia. I lift a colorful woven lid to find a soft grayish-brown flatbread called injera. It is made from teff, the world's tiniest grain. Because teff is fermented for 3 days, the microbes neutralize the phytates that would otherwise block mineral absorption. This unlocks massive amounts of iron. It is the reason Ethiopia has historically seen lower rates of anemia compared to other regions with similar diets. I move now to a table representing the Caucasus Mountains, specifically the borderlands of Russia and Georgia. I see a glass of thick white kefir, fermented from cauliflower-like grains. It sparkles on the tongue. Unlike yogurt, kefir is a symbiosis of both bacteria and yeast. This diversity allows the microbes to better survive the stomach's acid, providing superior temporary colonization of the gut to boost the immune system. Now, Table Indonesia. I see a firm block wrapped in a banana leaf. This is tempeh. It is nutty and firm, almost like a mushroom. Over 400 years ago, the people of Java discovered that a white mold called Rhizopus would grow on soy pressings. The mold pre-digests the soy protein. This makes the protein significantly more absorbable than tofu. It turned a simple bean into a meat alternative that powered an entire civilization. Our final stop, Table Egypt. I see a crusty rustic loaf of sourdough. 5,000 years ago, an Egyptian baker likely left dough out, and wild yeast from the air claimed it. The long fermentation breaks down complex sugars and gluten proteins. It prevents that heavy, bloated feeling of modern bread. It is bread that remembers how human digestion actually works. As I look back at these 10 tables, the wisdom is clear. Our ancestors didn't see bacteria as enemies. They saw them as partners. Think about that. For the last century, we have lived in a state of war. We bleach our counters, we scrub our skin, we pasteurize our world until it is silent and sterile. We've been taught to fear the invisible. But these tables tell a different story. They tell us that we didn't survive despite the microbial world. We survived because of it. Fermentation is not rot. It is controlled surrender. It is the brave act of letting go, allowing the world to change our food so that it can change us. It is the moment we stop fighting the inevitable decay and start directing it toward life. It's a truce between our human hunger and the ancient hunger of the microbes. These are the original technologies of our species. Before we had steam engines, before we had silicon chips, we had the clay pot and the wild yeast. This is our oldest software. And perhaps, in our rush toward a high-tech future, the most radical thing we can do is remember the wisdom of the wait. These foods are accessible, powerful, and waiting for you to try them. But remember, food is personal. Always be mindful of allergies and talk to your doctor. We are here to spark your curiosity, not replace medical advice. So, tell me, which table will you visit first? Which rot that heals from your home did I miss? I'm Kotravai, and this is Curious Minds Podcast. Stay grounded, stay kind, and stay curious. See you